Okay, so this is part 3 of John 1:1b, specifically John 1:1b. We dealt with John 1:1a on many occasions, and I think what really people want to check out is John 1:1c because of our discussions with so-called Jehovah's Witnesses, and they call Jesus a God, and so that's a big topic. That's the biggest topic, okay, in this verse. But we're not there yet, even though I touched upon it a little bit. For you anxious types, before I get to John 1:1b, John 1:1c has to do with a predicate adjective, and predicate adjectives are sometimes anarthrous, and that's how Greek gives are clues. What Greek gives, okay, is clues. I should say are clues, is clues. And I'm over here with my baby, so she could be distracting me sometimes, but hopefully I'll get on the right track again. She's a special child, so just keep her in prayer. Her name's Anna Devane. She's 4 years old, but she acts like a baby. So just be patient with me. Some of my stuff is my own doing, and I have to edit, and but some of the stuff comes from outside influence. So that's just a deal. Hi, my love. Hi. Hi. Hi, my lovey. My lovey. So anyway, that's the deal. Now, I already prayed for this study, so this is just part 3, because the first parts of the study, I was really groggy and sleepy, because I don't really get a lot of sleep, and one of the reasons is the reason I just told you that I have a special child, and sometimes we go to sleep late, All right, now, so John 1:1c, before we get to John 1:1b, which has to do with relationship slash intercommunion, or intercommunion slash relationship. First part having to do with eternal subsistence. Eternal subsistence, you understand? Part 3, or gamma, as I call it in Greek, or, just C in English, right? Even Latin, has to do with nature slash essence. And like I said, that Greek will give you clues from time to time about some things don't inflect, like prepositions, they don't inflect. Some things don't inflect in Greek, but a lot of things do. And adjectives, what's the big clue in telling what kind of adjectives it is, if it's anarthrous or articular. Okay, if something is articular, that means that something has an article. Okay, if it's anarthrous, that means that, Greek noun, that means that it doesn't have an article. Now, attributive adjectives, okay, let's put it like this, for the most part, okay, for the most part are articular, and sometimes they're not articular. But if you see an adjective with an article, well, then that will tell you that you're probably looking. You have to see if the Amy word is there. There's other clues too, embedded in the text, but and the context is key. But one of the clues for an attributive adjective to tell if it's an attributive adjective or not is the presence of the article. That's just a basic thing. Sometimes the noun doesn't have an article, and then the adjective doesn't have an article. Okay, you understand? So, I mean, and one of the clues that something is a predicate adjective is the absence of the article. Though, sometimes it appears with the article. That's not a straitjacketed rule. Like hutas and akenas, that's not a straitjacketed rule, remotus antecedent and nearest antecedent and all that stuff. And you have two perfect examples of the consistency of the rule, though, however, in the straitjackets, if you will, when you see hi hon, John chapter 1 verse 2 and John chapter 1 verse 18. Hutas and akenas are playing out their perfect roles there, so that's just a deal. Now, also in participial constructions, you can see if a participle is acting adjectively, adverbially, or adjectively. Okay, so that's just a deal also. So the article, like in Haon, that that's telling you that that's not an adverbial participle construction. Okay, it can't be. It can't be. Okay, that's the clue. You understand what I'm saying? So that's just it. Now the Jehovah's Witnesses have to understand. The Jehovah's Witnesses, the JW so-called Jehovah's Witnesses, have to understand that rule, or that's in Greek. And just because something doesn't have an article doesn't make it indefinite. Okay, it just I mean, an article is called a weak demonstrative in Greek, and whether it be ha, he, ta, tu, te, stu, to, te, to, tan, te, ta, or whatever the case may be, ton, 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 hoi, hai, ta, to go backwards a little bit, and tois, and tu, sta, sta. I mean, you have 24 different articles, and it could be translated that one. Okay, it could be translated that one, like a pronoun. Okay, and so you have articles all over the place. You have some articles appear in front of infinitives. That's a clue that that's an infinitive construction. Never mind the psi and the nigh and all this other stuff. That could be a good clue. Okay, in front of a verb. You understand what I'm saying? So the Jehovah's Witnesses have to understand, just because theos and nartos doesn't make it indefinite. Okay, indefinite. And that's just a deal. So they have to understand that according to Greek, and I want to get back to John 1:1b because it's so glorious, the intercommunion / relationship that logos have with theos. You understand what I'm saying? They have to understand that predicate adjectives are anarthros. It's just going to be. It's asserting something about logos, because the word logos in and of itself is not asserting unless you have a concept of logos in Greek thinking. Okay, Jewish thinking, the Greek speaking Jews, right? They had a concept of logos, and that's recorded in John, in Handbook translation of the Gospel of John, sold by the American Bible Society. Okay, I mean, you had your Jewish community that knew about things. Okay, knew about these things. Okay, but fine. But in and of itself, logos doesn't mean God. You need a predicate adjective, okay, in a predicate position to indicate the nature of logos, because I already talked about two topics. It spoke about meaning the verse, spoke already about, and the two parts of the verse connected by the copulative connective chi, linking them together. So the thoughts are linked together by two chis, and actually two was, or whatever the case may be in Hebrew. You have that, you have and there also, Elohim being in the text, and Ha Elohim, being in the text in John 1:1b, Elohim being in the text in John 1:1c. And by the way, Elohim doesn't need an article. Ha, it sounds the same, but it doesn't look the same. It's the Hey, and it's the H in Hebrew that can act like an article. And it can even act like it could act like that also, and all of that. The Hey could do a lot of things in and of itself. It could make a word feminine like cola and stuff like that, though. But getting back to Greek, there are 10 different ways that a Greek noun can be definite without the article, and you have two examples right there in John 1, right here in John 1:1, A and C. C, the predicate adjective, okay, predicate nominative there is anarthrous. Yet that's definite. And the word arche, nowadays pronounced arche, like I said in the other two parts, that's anarthrous. It will be let me see, it will be in the dative, so it'll be te there. If it was there, it would have been te, but it's not there. Just like te is not in front of the word for Rome, okay, in Romans chapter 1 verse 7, yet Rome, the word for Rome is definite. Okay, some prepositional phrases don't include articles. That's just a fact. Yet the prepositional phrase, the object of the preposition uh, doesn't necessarily suggest that it's indefinite. And you have numbers that can be definite also. Uh, you have names. Sometimes Jesus, okay, comes without the article. Either ha, either either ha, tu, to, or tan. All those constructions. Even though Jesus doesn't inflect, it just has three different constructions and not four for the first part of the paradigm. Jesus, Yesu, Yesu, both share the same construction, meaning the cases, Yesu, the dative and the genitive, Yesu. But then the accusative case does inflect the Yesun with a nu. You understand? Sometimes Jesus is found 917 times, not all for him. See Romans chapter 16. Yet is definite already by nature. So the predicate nominative, you understand, theos, is in a predicate position. That means the force is laid heavily on the fact that Jesus is divine, fully divine, meaning is the divine being, is the Almighty. Now, we already saw in John 1:1a that it talks about eternal subsistence. We saw in John 1:1b that it speaks about, meaning that section of the verse. There's 17 Greek words in all in this very short verse. This is a short verse compared to Hebrews 1:8. That also calls Jesus God with special definiteness. The Father calls Jesus God with special definiteness. There are no special false. See Timothy chapter 6 verse 20. 1 Timothy chapter 6 verse 20. The omega there, the inflectional particle, is showing special force. That's not what's going on in Hebrews 1:8. That has around 25 Greek words, something like that, 23, 25, whatever it is. It's larger than this verse. This verse is a small verse. I already spoke about the manuscript evidence about of the verse. Manuscript C, which is a 5th century manuscript. I think it's Ephraimi Rescriptus, right? Isn't it? Manuscript C, like in car. Latin, those are Latin letters, C and A and B, stuff like that. There's one Hebrew letter designating a manuscript, and there are numbers designating manuscripts, and papyri numbers, if you will, designating those papyri. Papyri-based documents, P75, P76, stuff like that. That has to do with the Gospel of John. Ephraimi Scriptus is very important in this, in the respect that, as far as this manuscript goes, because this verse goes, because it only has the first two verses, and arche after that doesn't have anything else of the verse, so it's skimpy at best. And but manuscript L has one more word. It has an extra article right in front of theos, and that's in a predicate position. Okay, it's just a deal. In John 1:1c, so it has 18 Greek words, including the article. If the witnesses want me to produce a copy of a manuscript that has the article in front of theos, so manuscript L. So it's a later manuscript, but I have one. I have one up my sleeve. You know what I'm saying? And literally, we can have one. We can have these manuscripts in our on our phones. In our pockets. I remember a long time ago before. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to be talking briefly about the intercommunion / relationship of who we now know as God the Father, who we know now as God the Son. I say that because they weren't father and son at the time. Remember, a patron, a metron. Without father, without mother. Alpha primitives there all across the board in those two words, for those two words. You understand what I'm saying? No father, no mother. That means that he had no beginning and he wasn't the son at the time. I disagree completely with Tertullian. I disagree with him. I believe in the Son of God. I don't believe that he was the son. And I hate to say at the time, because there was no time, there was no even eternity before eternity began. He's the father of it. Verse 6, chapter 9 of Isaiah, meaning Logos. And so he was the father of it. So if he was the father of it, so he came before, he He existed before eternity. I disagree with Tertullian. I don't believe in the eternal sonship of Jesus, that he was always the Son. It's not saying that he was created, but he was the eternal Son. I don't believe in that. There's no evidence that he was the Son. I will be to him a father. He will be to me a son. That's in the future tense there, recorded, either in a liquid or in a sigma, or whatever the case may be in a future tense. We have to check that out. We already made a study of it according to Hebrews chapter 1, verses 5 and 6. You understand? That's in the future tense. And you see that in chapter 5, verse 5 and chapter 7, verse 3, like I said before. So it's very easy to deal with the witnesses, in as far as theos is anarthrous, so what? That's a common thing, okay, for a predicate nominative to be anarthrous when it's acting, when it is what it is. This is an adjective. Okay, asserting, not attributing, but asserting something, okay, about logos or logos. So don't say logos. I mentioned that before in the body of the study. It's asserting something, it's in a predicate position. It's asserting something about logos. It's asserting that he is also God. He has the very same nature as God. He's not the same person, as the Father, and I gave two indications why that could be why that's the case, because each have a will and each have a mind. Now, I'm not saying that they have a mind like we have a physical brain in our heads. You understand what I'm saying? Even though Jesus has one now, he has that body is eternal. The body that was raised up from the dead, gave by the entire Trinity, by the way. You understand what I'm saying? Acts chapter 2, Romans chapter 1, verse 4, and then, John chapter 2, around verse 19, where there's definitely a liquid there, a liquid future there. The Hro is pointing that out. Sigma was dropped off, by the way. Sigma and Epsilon, Epsilon and Sigma, I think, were Epsilon and Sigma were dropped off, I believe, in the liquids, right? In liquids, the liquid futures, So the Trinity, raised up that body from the dead ones, nekron. That's in the plural, by the way. Sheol. You will not leave my soul in Sheol. So that's just another topic altogether. But the thing is that the predicate nominative there is anarthrous, okay, because that's a normal thing. For how can you tell the difference between, like I said before, between a predicate nominative and an attributive adjective? Well, the absence or presence of the article. And if you see that it has an article, okay, let's put it like this: most likely you're looking at an attributive adjective. Okay, though that's not a straight chocolate rule, like I said before. Okay, sometimes a noun is not even there, and then you just have to go by the adjective. You understand what I'm saying? So that's just it. Now, and if you're seeing a word, right, without the article, you're most likely looking at a predicate nominative, and that's what the Holy Spirit, who is the primary author of the book, the Apostle John being the secondary author of the book, whom Jesus loved. You know what I mean? He wrote it down by inspiration. He wrote down not an attributive adjective, lending some sort of attribution to logos. No. He wanted to assert something by inspiration about logos. Assert something about him. And Amy is there present. That's a good clue. Amy is there. The Greek word ain is there in the imperfect tense, but when you trace it, it goes back to Amy. Amy's in the present tense. It's a me verb, as a matter of fact, though. And you see the eta lengthen a letter there, and then you have the personal ending, the secondary. What is it? Primary, secondary, primary. Not secondary, primary. This is a contradiction, but secondary active ending. New there, which I think is optional, and the third person there. I think it goes like nu, sigma, nothing, mete, and new, I believe. I think that's the paradigm. I think if I can remember it correctly. That's what I'm saying. From the master personal ending chart, or boxes. So that's what you can say to the witnesses. Is in a predicate position. It's a predicate nominative. That's a usual thing for a predicate nominative to be an authorist, to actually know what kind of adjective it is. Okay, that's how you can tell. And then there's a presence of an Amy word, so that helps. There's a progression of thought there. One leads to the other. Eternal subsistence leads to eternal. It leads to relationship slash intercommunion, or vice versa. And then that leads to not only that he was with another person who's distinct from himself. He was the same person whom he was with, but even though he's not the same person, he still has the same nature, because underneath the stuff of God dwells or lives three persons. And that was said by R.C. Sproul, and I agree with that. I don't agree with Tertullian, but I agree with R.C. Sproul. That's what I'm saying. All right, let's get back to and I'm gonna leave some space here so I could maybe edit what I just said on John 1:1c separately for the edification of God's people and the people yet to be born. All right, now let's get back to John 1:1b very quickly, because I'm taking care of my baby, like I said before, and it's late. John 1:1b has to do with intercommunion slash relationship. Now, when you see, okay, a relationship, remember that the preposition shows you the relationship between two things or people, or whatever the case may be, okay, or a person or a thing or whatever. He was under the table. I don't know what he was doing there, but anyway, even the dogs, eat from the master's crumbs. I guess that's just, but anyway, I had to pick something. It's showing you the relationship that two words have with each other. Let's just put it like that, right? So the preposition pros is showing you the relationship that logos has with, okay, pros with, okay, theon, with God. Okay. Now, both of them have the article, so you have to dealing with two distinct or different persons in John 1:1b or John 1:1 beta. Okay, two different persons. Okay, ha lagos, ha tan theon. You see. Now, pros is taking the object of the preposition is theon. That's the object of the preposition. The prepositional phrase is pros ton theon. Now, when you're dealing with pros, which means facing, face to face with God, some people could say, well, he's face to face with God, he's with God, he's not really God. Well, that's why John 1:1c was written, for you to avoid that thinking. That just because it doesn't end in John 1:1b. See, the Jehovah's Witnesses will love it to end there, but it doesn't. It goes on to John 1:1c, which I affectionately call the Caesarean section, because if you're born again, you're going to believe in the deity of Christ. I used to have the cart before the horse, not theologically speaking. I always believed in election and predestination. But just linguistically, I used to say it sort of in the wrong way, because if you believe, you'll be born again. I had to scrap that. And I said, well, if you're born again, then you're going to believe in the full deity of Christ. That's just the deal. And if you don't believe in it, that means you're not not of God's people, because God's people believe. Love believes all things, and that means things in the Bible that is spoken to us by the living God of Israel. You understand what I'm saying? Now, so that's just the thing. So B is showing you the intercommunion slash relationship that they have with each other. Now, when you're talking about intercommunion, when you're talking about face to face in Greek, prosopon, you're talking about an intimate union, a sexual union between a man and a woman. Okay, you're talking about something that's intimate like that. And I was waxing eloquent about my relationship with the kids And then when I'm kissing my kids, they're babies. One acts like a baby. She's 4, and one's a true baby. He's 1 and more than 1.5 years old. I put my face in front of their face, and I always remember that verse. Facing. This verse. Face to face. And but there's another human relationship that's even greater than a child parent relationship, and that's husband and wife, and I happen to be married. Okay, and when you're intimate with your spouse, you're face to face with them in the deepest way possible upon this earth. Okay, now scrap that for a second and get into the deity. Logos was facing, okay, all right, Theon, in the most intimate, personal relationship conceivable, no pun intended, imaginable. I mean, there's nothing greater, okay, than a relationship, okay, you understand what I'm saying, that Logos have with Theos. Nothing. There's nothing greater than that. But just because they were with each other in an intimate way, and they were, it doesn't mean that they were two beings. They just are two persons. Hi, my love. Hi, my love. They're two distinct persons because, like I said, Greek word telo, that means will. They had their wills. Okay. I was sent not to do my own will, but the will of him who sent me, or, not as I will, but thy will be done. I mean, I believe Matthew chapter 26 speaks about the will of the Father and of the Son. And then you see the will of Jesus. I think the Greek word telo there, telo, I think it's like theta, epsilon, nowadays called theta. Theta, not vita, but theta. The theta, epsilon, lambda, and omega, telo, that means will. But you see that the Holy Spirit has a will also. Found and recorded around verse 4, something like that, or verse 3, chapter 2 of Hebrews, but it's really clear in verse 11, chapter 12 of 1 Corinthians, where he dispenses the gifts as he wills. And I think the Greek word there is bouletai, if I'm not mistaken. It could be something else, but I think I'll take a chance to say bouletai for now. I don't have it right in front of me. Now, so everybody has a will. The Holy Trinity, all members have a will, but not only that, they have a mind. Okay? Let this mind be in you, which was also in Christ Jesus. Has and my faith right after that. You understand what I'm saying? Verses 5 and 6 of Philippians. Verse 5 says that Jesus has a will. I mean, a mind, right? And a will also. But I'm just saying, I switched it to something else. I just don't want to be, I just want to be factual. But he has a mind, but the mind of the Spirit. That's found and recorded, verse 27 and 26 of Romans chapter 8. You see? And then everybody, agrees that the Father has a mind. Okay? He has a mind. So that's just the deal right there. So they all have, I hate to say separate minds and separate wills, but they have let's just put it like this, they have their own minds and their own wills. Okay? Not as I will. See, he wills that the cup pass, but not as I will, but thy will be done. That's just the deal. Now, where's the Trinity here? Well, this is not a Trinitarian verse. I mean, a verse based on a Trinity, per se. 3. Okay, oops, sorry about that, guys. It doesn't have to do with that. It doesn't have to do with that at all. You see? Let me see if I can make this brighter and brighter. Wait for a second, guys. Let me just wait for a second here. Let me see. Let me get this is a new phone, and I'm having fun with my new phone over here. You understand? That's just the deal. They just put it a little bit brighter, even though it's dark. But I'm visually impaired, so I really want the phone not to be so bright. So it's just we get back to where I was before. So we're talking about intimacy here. We're talking about the deepest, greatest intimacy that two persons ever had, ever. Marriage, marital relationship pales into insignificance, and as a matter of fact, it's not even meant to portray that. God, the Logos, and who we now know is God the Father. Logos. I think I said Logos. It doesn't. Marriage is not meant to portray that. Marriage is meant to portray the love of Jesus with His bride, the church. So it's not even giving you an example of the deity's intimacy. Okay, especially the deity that was the intimacy rather found and recorded in this verse. Pross is giving you a great indication of intimacy there, face to face, process intimacy. Not only did he subsist eternally, timelessly, and continuously. That's found and recorded in the Greek ordain, which is in the imperfect tense. The aspect is linear, it's continuous. It's not a completed action like the ours can be in the perfect tense is. Okay, it doesn't say, logos might be something. It's not a subjunctive. There's no subjunctive here. There's no omegas and etas. You understand what I'm saying? Hanging around like that, like poieso men, stuff like that. Let us make. That's the Trinity there, though. Primary, active, personal, ending men. It's showing you that. You don't get into the word three until you get into Shalosh in around verse 2 or 3 in chapter 18 of Genesis, and then and tres or thrice in the Greek Septuagint, LXX. You understand what I'm saying? Chapter 18, same chapter. Getting back to this, I don't know what to say. I can't think of a greater word than intimacy. That's why this section is bathed under the umbrella of the title of intercommunion/relationship. If I were to give separate titles, I will give those titles to the sections of this fuss. Eternal subsistence, John 1:1a. Intercommunion/relationship, John 1:1b. Nature/essence, John 1:1c. This is right there. It's right there. And when you get into verse 2, a Jehovah's Witness was debating me one day and said, well, there's nothing like John 1:1. Did you ever read, and quote, but I say, did you ever read John 1:2? It's similar. And then you have First John's giving you an indication that is talking about this, but it just asks, pros ton patera. But what's the big deal? I could say, John the Apostle meant to say, that the Father now was this and this and this at that time, or whatever the case may be, or he was with the Father. But I could say, my wife was born in 1986. She wasn't even my wife at the time. You see how I'm saying wife? I could say, a baby was born in 1986 in the Philippines, but I could also say it in this way. You understand what I'm saying? My wife was born, but she wasn't even my wife. She was just born. I was 21 years old in New York City, working, 2 different jobs in 2 different times of that year. You understand what I'm saying? So that's where, if you complain about, Angelo, doesn't it say that he was the Father in 1 John chapter 1? No, I'm just saying. John is writing at the time that there is a father-son relationship, so he could just easily say, well, he was with the Father. Life was with the Father, pros ton patera. Patera in the case is the case for Father. You understand what I'm saying? So he can say that, and it doesn't change the doctrine, doesn't change the fact that he wasn't the Father at the time. I will be to him a father. He will be to me a son. It's completely useless if there's no distinction. Okay, why will he say, I will be to him a father in the future tense if he was already the father at the time? So it's just a deal. Right, well, my baby, I think, no doubt fell asleep, so I better end it here, guys, okay? I think this is enough for you guys to understand, okay, what's going on in John 1:1a. What's going on in John 1:1a has to do with a linear aspect, sort of a deal. That the eternal subsistence of logos, and it's better said subsistence than existence, that the subsistence of logos was continuous, timeless, and eternal. The word eternal doesn't have to be here. If it was there would be a problem, okay? Because he's the Father of eternity. So if eternity was there already, well, then I think there's a problem, because he's the Father of eternity. So he had to exist before eternity itself. You understand what I'm saying? That's what I do. And then, when time stops over here on this planet, you'll be back to eternity. You understand what I'm saying? So that's just the deal. We were talking about the eternal, subsistence of logos. But it doesn't end there, even though manuscript either D or F, I forgot which one ends there, in John 1:1a. It doesn't have John 1:1b or C, one of those manuscripts, either D or F, like David and Fernando. You know what I'm saying? I don't know which one, I forgot. But it doesn't end there like that manuscript, like one of those manuscripts has it. It goes on to point out intercommunion/relationship. Not only did he subsist, but he doesn't want to give you the authors, okay, primary and secondary authors don't want to give you an indication that he was on his own. And that's when that's why John 1:1b comes into play. You understand what I'm saying? Not only did he subsist continuously, Greek word ain is in the imperfect tense. You understand what I'm saying? Augment eta is there, like I said before. There's fellowship to be spoken about between logos and theos. Now I wanted to mention this, and I think I forgot that the Holy Spirit is keeping himself in the background here, okay? Because the focus of the book, remember that this is a prologue. This is part of a prologue of 18 verses, introduction of John. The relationship between before the Father and the Son are the primary things. Is the primary thing that the Holy Spirit wants to address, wants to witness to. Okay, so that's why he keeps himself in the background. Okay, where it has to do with this prologue. Okay, that's food for thought right there. Okay, just in case somebody say, well, the Trinity is not here, you still believe in the Trinity? It doesn't have to be there. He keeps himself in the background. He shall not glorify himself, he shall glorify me, Jesus said. So what did we learn so far? Well, from John 1:1, we learned about the manuscript evidence, B6675, manuscript C, flimsy as it is at this point. Manuscript either D or F has only a part of this verse as well. Manuscript L has a larger version, a different version of this text with an extra article, ha. You see, attached to the predicate nominative there in John 1:1c. So it doesn't have 17 Greek words, it has 18 Greek words. I spoke about that there's a progression of thought, and you could give titles to each of these parts. Eternal subsistence, John 1:1a, intercommunion/relationship, John 1:1b, and then nature/essence, John 1:1c, which I affectionately call the Syrian section of Scripture. Well, I also said that a preposition, shows a relationship between two things or people or a thing and a person or whatever. Or it gives you indication of the relationship between two words. And it's showing you, meaning pros, it's showing you the relationship that Logos had with Theos, that it was one of intimacy. It was one with distinction as far as persons go, and as equals according to nature, and that's why John 1:1 was born, not a man, by the way. That doctrine wasn't born of man. The deity of Christ wasn't born of man. The Trinity doctrine concept wasn't born of man. You understand what I'm saying? Didn't come by the will of man, but by the will of God. Now, we also saw that that there are 10 ways, okay, that a Greek noun can be definite without the article. And I already mentioned that the article is called a weak demonstrative, and so that's just the deal. We also saw, okay, that two examples of that fact of 10 different ways that a noun could be definite without the article. We saw that there's two examples of this. John 1 A and C, and arche, and pros tantean. Those are prepositional phrases. And arche, incidentally, and arche is found 55 times or something like that, 53 or 55 times in the Greek New Testament. And the phrase itself, NRK, is found like a handful of times, like 3 or 4 times in the Greek New Testament. See the book of Philippians, see other verses as well. That's basically it. This had to do with, talking about the great intimacy that Jesus shared with Theon. And then he left all of that, okay, to join the people to himself, So that's just the deal. This is Angelo Quinones giving glory, okay, giving glory to the God of Israel. God is not the God of the Necron, with a kappa, right? Necron, right? But of the living, not of the dead, but of the living. That means that Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob were very much alive at the time that Jesus said those words. Please subscribe to my channel. Please give me a thumbs up, and please leave a comment on the screen. Thank you so much for joining this John 1:1 study and series, by the way. Thank you. Bye.